Hello all, welcome back to our weekly portion review. This week we're in the portion of Vayigash, which translates to "and he drew near," referencing Judah himself, who is drawing near to Joseph to really plea on behalf of Benjamin's life, like we were discussing last week. But we really reach the crescendo of this dramatic story when Joseph finally reveals himself to his brothers. Jacob comes down as well, his father, and we also have the tremendous amount of economical restructure that Joseph is overseeing. Now, really, the Torah does describe in a tremendous amount of detail the economic and social policies that Joseph is instituting during his rule over Egypt. And really, there was different stages to it, right? The famine led first to the abolition of the currency, right? Joseph gathered all the money found in the land of Egypt. And when the money was exhausted, then property follows, right? The land and the livestock ultimately are nationalized, and even personal freedoms. Joseph, really acquired all of Egypt as servants for Pharaoh at that time, right? I need to really restructure everyone over here. I'm mobilizing everyone. Now, Joseph doesn't stop there either. He then does this mass urbanization, right? He uproots Egypt from different landscapes where they actually grew up and moves them throughout the country. And here too, the Torah tells us that he transferred people to cities from one end of Egypt to the other. And this is not, again, just an administrative move. This is actually has like a profound cultural significance to it, right? According to our sages, Joseph even went further, and he initiated not just a physical transformation, but a spiritual one as well, by having all the Egyptians circumcise themselves as well, which our sages interpret from the verse, whatever Joseph tells you to do, what Pharaoh told the Egyptians, whatever Joseph tells you to do, and this means also circumcision as well. And this is really a total civilizational change at that time. And it really appears that Joseph understood his role as a representative of Abraham's family to be the one fertilizing Egypt, right? Like the verse talks about the nakedness of the land. He has to take this on and fill it with this morality. And, really this revolution within the world's leading culture of the time, he really believed that he could fulfill the divine promise to Abraham: through you all the families of the earth will be blessed, right? So this moment marks one of the first appearances of the temptation to that will ultimately accompany Israel throughout history, right? And we see with Abraham, when he went down to Egypt, he knew he had to leave. But here we see that Joseph has this belief that he could repair the world, and it could be achieved by, the tikkun olam, so to speak, could be achieved by integrating into the dominant culture of the time, and then infusing it with morality and holiness from within. But the Torah signals to us that in advance that this attempt actually can't fully succeed, right? And cultural roots always remain beyond the reach ultimately of, even if I'm very well intentioned, of the person that's trying to reform the place. There's still something I'm never going to be able to fully transform. And the Torah hints at this when it tells us that only the land of the priests was not Pharaoh's, right? Like they have their own little area, right? The Egyptian priesthood really preserved the original identity of Egypt during Joseph's moment of, hegemony. And they became then the seed which ultimately resists and rejects Joseph's values that later on reemerge, right? We'll get to that when with Moses, obviously. And no matter how extensive a reform would be, the deepest spiritual infrastructure of that civilization actually remained untouched. And for this reason, the narrative seemingly pivots towards the path of Judah then, and which is a fundamentally different strategy. Right? Judah ultimately insists that Israel's message to humanity must come from a center, not from absorbing into some foreign power, right? And we understand this from the verse with regards to Jacob, where he sent Judah ahead of him to Joseph to prepare the way, meaning the transmission of Israel's moral vision has to come from a sovereign, a spiritually grounded core, right, which later will, eventually this will crystallize into the land of Israel. Now, this tension is not just ancient history, right? It really, again, defines the world we're living in now. And across the globe, we see that political systems are attempting to do moral or cultural overhauls, and they're restructuring their economics and their identities and their values, and even the people there themselves, the human people there themselves, with all the tremendous amount of immigration that we see going around the world, and displacement. And many people believe that by capturing institutions and media and finance, or even like a global consensus, they could actually redeem humanity, so to speak, right? A la Greta Thunberg. And others really respond with fear, and there's a backlash, and we could also see that with how things are going on with ICE in America, and this this results in a world vibrating with instability. And Israel really sits in the epicenter of this tension. On one side, there's the Joseph model, right, which is like universalism through integration, influence through the global structures, and ultimately will have moral progress through the dominance of the culture. On the other hand, on the other side, there needs to be, hi. On the other side, really, there is also the model of Judah, which has really a particular identity, and there's a sovereignty we're talking about, and an influence that really flows outwards rather than inwards. Right, and this friction, we actually feel it today, politically and culturally. There's this unresolved question that the Torah already posed: can humanity be redeemed through power, but without actual roots that ground you? And this is something that we have to really think about. And the Torah has answered this in a very subtle but firm way. Joseph is necessary, but is ultimately insufficient. Without Judah, Joseph's dream ultimately will collapse back into Egypt. And the world is really feeling a collapse coming. And our focus has to be redemption. I'm wishing you guys all a Shabbat Shalom, one where we know how to understand where we're positioned, who we are, and what our mission is. Take care.